Okay, this is OPM122. It's the first meditation of the second third of this year-long commemoration, and this material obviously was written 10 years ago today, and I'm commemorating it 10 years later. I've written a commentary that will be posted along with this video on the blog Duarte Being and Learning, which is on Blogger. And this material was ultimately published in the book Being and Learning in Chapter 8, pages 202 and 203. Let's see if I can get some light here. We have identified the names mindfulness and conscience, concientización, to describe the product of meditative thinking. This product is the community of peace and freedom, gathered by openness itself. When we say gathered by openness itself, we speak of the ineffable making its appearance as the gap that seizes and separates the many. To be seized is to be captivated and drawn into. To be seized by the ineffable is to be held out before the other as the not yet and the beyond. The ineffable appears as the appeal of language, which addresses us as mortals, each of us as particular, as one of the many, as limited beings, enjoined in a complex horizon. To authentically receive this appeal is to become devoted to learning, and thereby to submit oneself to the alterity of the other, to what is always already beyond us. To submit oneself to what is always already beyond is to be transported into openness itself, to become poetic, and thus free, open and ready for the unforeseen. But the unforeseen is the alterity of the other, the appearance of the ineffable as that which is always already beyond us. To be devoted to learning is to be carried into and seized by that which is always already beyond us, the unforeseen, the alterity of the other. To be devoted to learning is to be captivated by the other, to be enjoined in dialogue. To be captivated by the unforeseen, the ineffable appearing in the gap that preserves alterity and thereby conserves freedom, is to diminish, to be estranged. The learner is the one who is a stranger to himself, because as learner he is devoted to the cultivation of the community, and in this devotion caught up in his services to the other. His self is entrusted and thereby preserved by the other. This is the essence of being together. That is the dialogue of enjoyment, of intersubjectivity. Thus the emergence of the learner is the emptying of the self, the diminishment of the I in the dialogue, and the dialogic I-thou relation. In the formation and maintenance of this relation, we see that the proper response to the appeal of language, which beckons us to be open and ready for the unforeseen, which gathers us in openness. When the beckoning of language is heeded, we see the emergence of the learner who is devoted to the other, and in his devotion caring for being. To care for being is to become engaged in the building of poetic dwelling, which is the making of meaning, the creative act of building and repairing the world. Thus, to be a learner is to be a steward, a caretaker. The learning community is the gathering of stewards, the building of poetic dwelling, the work of stewardship. And this caring for being, this stewardship, is the nature of an experiential philosophy that is intent on pursuing the path of love, of cultivating friendship, fellowship, and solidarity. Yet for this experiential philosophy to make its appearance, and to take up the practice of meditative thinking, the empty and abstract ruminations of the cogito must be silenced and shattered. For the latter, which promotes unilateralism and individualism, with the calculative and instrumental that masquerades as reason, obstructs the communicative action that gives rise to symmetric reciprocity and intersubjectivity. This is philosophy preoccupied with the busyness of the abstract, a preoccupation that is wholly unevocative and has a stultifying effect on the potential apprentice who, full of life and vitality, is turned off by the flaccid and impotent form. This form of philosophy is correctly understood to be located in the comfort and security of the domestic habitat, the familiar, the parochial, and monocultural. Quote, however, as long as philosophy merely busies itself with continually obstructing the possibility of admittance into the matter for thinking, in other words, into the truth of being, it stands safely beyond any danger of shattering against the hardness of the matter. Thus, to philosophize about being shattered is separated by a chasm for a thinking that is shattered. If such thinking were to go fortunately for a man, no misfortune would befall him. He would receive the only gift that can come to thinking from being. Unquote from Heidegger. To be devoted to learning, devoted to the Tao, is to take the risk of the leap into the unforeseen and to submit oneself to the other, to entrust one's saying to painstaking listening, and thereby to become a stranger to oneself, and thereby to renounce one's claim over the self. In this renunciation, the I is diminished as the solitary ego, and enjoined in intersubjectivity, dialogic, the I-thou relationship. To be enjoined in this relationship is to be captured and captivated by the appearance of the ineffable, which arrives in the guiding directive of wisdom, the gift bestowed upon us by being, through the appeal of language. To heed this appeal is to authentically receive this gift, the gift of teachability, the gift of teaching, that does nothing else than let learning be learned. Being offers this gift in the preservation of freedom, manifesting in the arrival of the ineffable, the gap that conserves freedom, as the possibility of the not yet that is always already beyond the safety of the habitual habitat. To receive the gift of teachability is to become the learner, estranged from her habitat, wandering in the open region, the mysterious and enchanted realm of peace. To receive this gift is to be taken up with the practice of meditative thinking, the thinking that shatters the juridical unilateral I. To receive this gift is to be admitted into the matter for thinking, mindfulness and conscientization, that is, the cultivation of the community of peace and stewardship of caring. To receive this gift is to be carried into the heart of learning. And that's how it ended on this day, the 15th of June, originally written 10 years ago in 2004, with the original experiment of writing every day, at least 1 hour, picking up where I picked up before. Ultimately, this material was published in the book Being and Learning, and this, what I just read, is in chapter 8, and it is pages 202 to 203, and commemorated 10 years later on this day, June 15th, 2014. And once again, check out the blog where I'll be posting this video as OPM122, and if you search that or the date, June 15th, you can see that the commentary that goes along with the video.